For the time untold, nations would rise and fall, and from their ashes legends would be born. Stories about the heroes and kings would make their owners immortal. They would be carried from generation to generation, told in a different way, but always leaving a great impact to those listening. However, people would not dare to tell certain stories. Some of them were shrouded in the mystic and dark veil, told by the sole survivors of horrors and battles which were not won by mere steel and stone. For we live in a strange world, and sometimes there are things we can't explain, things we don't dare to speak of, scared of getting the same fate as those who told them with their dying breath. Those stories would then be forgotten. Time would bury them under the ruins and dead bodies of their characters. But sometimes this particular fact would be of great benefit to those taking their time to plan the ultimate revenge. They will never forget the day when their friends were killed and their families murdered by unknown forces. They would live in darkness, sometimes for years, rewinding the last day and trying to figure out the best way to retaliate. And their stories will be told, but in a different way, and the world will pay for the harm done to them. To the sick and twisted but intelligent mind, nothing matters, only death, only blood, and only revenge. But he was not always like that. Rizrak was part of a great community, minding his own business and helping his uncle with his workshop. Even as a kid, Rizrak knew how to make and repair machinery. It was obvious from the start that he was destined to inherit his uncle's workshop and the steel and fire within it. However, during the peaceful days, and let me tell you, they were peaceful till their last day, he would repair toys and house tools, and everything would be done for free. To be honest, I'm not really sure if they had a form of money. No one is. People within the city walls would just exchange favors, and everybody looked the same on the first sight. There were no poor or rich, but happy people growing plants, fishing, and reading books in the shades of big trees. The nation was expanding quickly, and it was soon obvious that the city walls won't provide enough space for the houses, nor will trees and nearby small forests keep them warm enough during the cold winter nights. It was decided that in order to progress and evolve, certain risky moves had to be made. Not everybody agreed to this, but they had no choice. People had to change their ways of life, since this was the first time in their history when city gates would be open to the outer world. They were not small anymore to just hide under a rock. They were the rock. It was just a matter of time when others would notice their existence. At this point, Rizrak was already big and old enough to take care of himself and his destiny. He was free to go wherever he wished and do whatever he wanted, but his immediate decision was to stay and help his uncle. He did not know what to think about these drastic changes, nor did he care too much. He had his tools in the workshop basement to keep him company. His friends would often say that if Rizrak was only a tiny bit more talented, he would be able to speak with his toys and tools. Sometimes he would do that just to fool them, knowing they're watching from the bushes. The days of laughter and joy were impossible to count. The nation prospered even more once they discovered a strange and vast forest to the south. They were scared at first, since the trees looked strange, but the power within them would make fires burn brighter and longer than ever before. They were blinded by the access to such a powerful tool, and therefore ignorant to the possible danger. And who would say and believe, even now when the city lies in ashes, that these trees which were keeping them warm for so many nights would also take their lives? Nobody knows for sure what happened, and the truth lies in the frazzled and unstable mind of Rizrak. Rizrak could still hear the screams in his mind. He worked frantically, turning wrenches, twisting screws, building and carving and forging. Sleep eluded him, and for many days and nights he only built. Months had passed since he shut himself in his uncle's workshop, and his project was nearly complete. For hours, the rhythmic sound of a whetstone filled the shop as he sharpened a set of massive blades. His mind tormented with images of strangling vines, garroting neighbors, and tangling homes. But Rizrak knew the sawsuit would make him strong and safe, allowing himself this slither of hope before the full force of his fear crashed into his fading mind. Branches and blood. When the city fell, Rizrak fled trees that walked and fought and killed. Trees had shattered the gates and swarmed into the city. Trees had crushed and thrashed and stomped the last that Augury Bay could muster in defense, and stalked a few fleeing refugees. In addled silence, Rizrak unspooled the thick chain from the suit's arm. The his hands quaking as he inspected each link and ran a trembling finger along the claw attached at its end. The sawsuit was ready. With his hand trembling, he sparked the bladed machine to life. Terror drove him. Terror of what awaited him, and of what he would have to face to have any hope of calming his mind. As the sawsuit shuddered to life, he knew he must face this fear, and he knew he wouldn't like it one bit.